We have Vic Mallison, who is currently the campaign manager for George Latimer, who's running for the state senate in the 37th district, covering a chunk of lower Middle Westchester and north into White Plains and Bedford. Vic, how you doing?
Good. And how are you, David?
We're doing great. So I don't know if you heard any of the previous half hour with Mike Edelman.
Yes, I heard a bit of it.
I guess we were all here a little surprised that he is no longer an official Republican, capital R. But I guess he's sort of been sort of fed up with the national direction of the Republican Party. But we also want to just sort of get I'd be curious to hear your take on a line of what I guess would be a line of advocacy that Mike made about the Bob Cohen, George Latimer race, notwithstanding all the only thing I ever see is this sort of the Tea Party attacks on George. He's sort of espousing a little different line. I'm just curious to what your take on that would be.
I think that he misinterprets what's happening in Albany. The problems in Albany aren't about who is in charge. The problems in Albany are about the fact that each party, just like in Washington, is so busy fighting the other party that they forget to take care of the voters. They forget to take care of their constituents, the people who pay taxes. And the simple fact is George Latimer has shown over his career an amazing ability to be bipartisan. He was the first Democratic chair of the county legislature here in Westchester County. And as that first chair, one of the first things he did was to appoint Republicans to chair different committees. And unfortunately, the current system, puts too heavy of a burden on Westchester businesses. And George wants to work to amend that problem and amend what has been put on the table before. And Bob over and over and over misrepresents George's record. He misrepresents it on the MTA payroll tax. He misrepresents it on property taxes countywide. He talks about the fact that George missed 70 votes while he was, elected on the county board of the county board of the county. Wow, I just drew a blank. I apologize, guys. On the county board. But the simple fact is that's out of 6,000 votes almost.
Not only that, wasn't that like 15 years ago?
Well, no, George was on the county. Well, that's right. He's looking back at a record that extends for 13 years on the county board. And the simple fact is that's just a silly comment to say that you missed 70 votes and therefore you're irresponsible. If you look at the numbers, that means he was there 99% of the time. That means if George missed three meetings over 13 years, that would make up for all of those votes. You're not going to find another legislator out there with that kind of work ethic.
It's interesting though, because as I mentioned to on the previous part, all I've been getting in the mail. I mean, and I know this race very well. I know both candidates very well. But all I've been getting, all our household has been getting these sort of Tea Party attacks from the Cohen side. It's really non-substantive. It's just that Latimer's is the biggest tax hiker who's ever set foot in public office.
Yeah. The simple fact is that what Bob Cohen is doing, and I apologize, David, to cut you off, but what Bob Cohen is doing is he's got some polling information that says that property taxes and taxes in general matter to Westchester voters. So he's out there with his massive pocketbook between his personal money and the money from the Republican Senate Campaign Committee, and he's literally sent out 25 pieces of mail to people. And we're hearing it every day that people are sick and tired of getting these mailings from Bob that are Tea Party-esque and that do misrepresent George's record. And the simple fact is he has nothing new to say. He's not really talked about what his positions are on anything. All he is saying is that George Latimer is the biggest taxer in Westchester County, which is blatantly untrue. Blatantly untrue. We've taken a look at Rob Astorino's record, just for an example. Rob Astorino's record while he was on the town board in Mount Pleasant. And if you look over time, if we made the same extrapolation of the percentages of increases in property taxes while Rob Astorino was on that town board, you could make the argument that Rob Astorino is the number one taxer in Westchester County. Would anybody that's listening to this program believe that Rob Astorino believes your property taxes should be higher? Of course not. What George Latimer wants to do is to have a reasonable conversation about the fact that their taxes are too high and what are we going to do about that. And George Latimer has a plan to get rid of the unfunded mandates from Albany. What Mr. Edelman talked about was, what it talked a lot about was the Tea Party and the fact that, the Tea Party has really ruined the Republican Party. And the simple fact is Bob Cohen's race has, sort of been Tea Party-esque in that, they talk about issues in vague generalities and in a blithe, if you will, way. But the simple fact is, if you look at the specifics of individual issues, George Latimer is clearly the better candidate.